Now for question number 1, I'd usually expect there to be a kind of main idea, big picture question that covers the entire passage. They do that pretty frequently, but as you can see by this question, they don't always do it. This is really just about the first paragraph. And this is a reminder that the way that I do the reading sections on the SAT is that I do not read the passages to start. I kind of dive right into the questions because most of them are like this. They involve just a small, narrow portion of the passage, and that allows me to narrow my focus to just the ideas that matter. So this question is pretty clear about what it wants. It wants me to take a look at the first paragraph and think about the main purpose. So what I do is I read this paragraph and I kind of underline things that seem to be repeated. I'm looking for main ideas, and main ideas are usually repeated ideas. So just very quickly, another man might have thrown up his hands, but not Nawab Din. His 12 daughters acted as a spur to his genius, and he looked with satisfaction in the mirror each morning at the face of a warrior going out to do battle. I don't know what that's about. Nawab, of course, knew that he must proliferate his sources of revenue. The salary he received from K.K. Haruni for tending the tube wells would not even begin to suffice. So he's tending tube wells for money. He set up a little one-room flour mill run off a condemned electric motor, condemned by him. He tried his hand at fish farming in a little pond at the edge of his master's fields. He bought broken radios, fixed them, resold them. He did not demur even when asked to fix watches, though that enterprise did spectacularly badly and in fact earned him more kicks than kudos, for no watch he took apart ever kept time again. So I'm not trying to really understand every single nuance of this passage. I'm looking for repeated ideas, and this seems to me a list of things that this guy Nawab Din does. Okay, it specifically talks about how he makes money, and so those things are repeated. That's what I would focus on. If you didn't take that much away from this, that's okay too, because what we're supposed to do now is go to the answer choices and use them to better understand what we just read. So if I look at choice A, is the purpose of this paragraph to characterize Nawab Din as a loving father? No. It talks about his 12 daughters, but remember, this is a main idea. Main ideas are supposed to be repeated throughout this passage. The fact that he has 12 daughters is mentioned once and then never again. So that's not going to be a main idea. Be careful of that. The SAT does that often because they know that there's certain pieces of information that are going to kind of stick out in your mind, and then you're going to use that stuff that you remember to answer the question. But we need repeated ideas, not just random facts. Looking at choice B, is the purpose to outline the schedule of a typical day in Nawab's life. Well, there's a couple of problems that I see in this choice. First of all, there's nothing that indicates that this day is typical, right? I don't know what typical versus unusual would be for this person. I don't have that kind of background. But also, outlining a schedule is a very specific kind of thing. It means like we would see, okay, at 10 a.m. he's tending the tube wells. At 11 a.m. he's fish farming. At 2 p.m. he's fixing watches. Like whatever it may be, a schedule has a sort of like time component to it. And we're getting a list, but we're not really getting times that go along with each of these things. So this is not a schedule. That's too strong of a phrase. C, describe Nawab's various money-making ventures. Well, we definitely talked about how he makes money, his salary, and the revenue. We talk about these things as things that he does for work, so that kind of fits in with this idea of money-making ventures. So notice there's not much else to check in this choice. It's otherwise pretty vague. That's usually a good sign. We should always finish reading all the choices just to be sure, though. So let's look at D, to contrast Nawab's and Haruni's lifestyles. Well, Haruni is briefly mentioned, but this paragraph is definitely about Nawab, not about this guy Haruni, and so that's gone. And that leaves us with choice C, which we probably thought. So notice I'm not really being asked about the specific money-making ventures in like a way that I would have needed to memorize what each of them is. What the questions on the SAT tend to ask are broader stuff where you're allowed to kind of read between the lines and get general ideas instead of using your time to memorize facts from a passage. It's never going to be this kind of like memorize facts stuff. So sort through the choices. If you don't understand, it'll make things a lot easier to read from the passage.